Hey, it's Adam. So today's video is going to be a little bit more different. I'm not posting about plants today. I'm posting a recipe for butter chicken. I was super happy to get the request for this video because I enjoy posting all types of videos, not just plant videos. So if this is something enjoyable, I'll definitely be posting more recipes in the future. I kind of recently learned how to cook, I'd say like a year and a half ago-ish. And since then I've learned quite a bit. I mostly cook like Indian and Korean food, but I also know how to make like different pastas and stuff like that. So yeah, today's gonna be all about butter chicken, and I guess I'll give like a little history lesson about it before like teaching how to cook it. But it's a fairly like newer recipe. It's not like a traditional Indian recipe that's been handed down. It's more like, I think it was invented in the 50s on accident. There was like a street food restaurant, a street food like shop in like northern India, and the owner put leftover tandoori chicken in a sauce, like a butter tomato sauce that he had, because he didn't want to waste it, right? And then he tried it and it turned out like really good, so he was like, you know what, I'll just start selling this as like a completely new recipe or a completely new dish. And so I guess it became really popular at that store. And then eventually the owner started getting old, I think, and then someone else took over the shop, and then other people were just making it in their houses and stuff like that. So it just became its own recipe. But yeah, that was not too long ago. That was like 70-ish years ago. So it is a street food. It's not a traditional food. Or it's street food, not a traditional dish. So yeah, I'm going to bring my phone to the kitchen and we're going to make some butter chicken. Okay, so now we're in the kitchen and we're gonna start with a pack of chicken breasts. Yeah, boneless chicken breasts, just like any regular pack of chicken breasts. The first step is to always wash your chicken. That is an essential step, not only when you're making butter chicken, but any recipe with chicken involved. Wash your chicken. There's no questions asked, you just need to wash your chicken. So we're gonna get a bowl, this, and pack of chicken. I'm gonna open it and put it in the bowl. It's kind of hard to see. I added the chicken breast to the bowl, and then we're gonna go to the sink and wash it. This is extremely difficult to do while wearing earphones, but we're working with what we have. So, just fill up the bowl, and then basically just like literally wash the chicken. Rinse it, make sure it's like clean, because like you'll see that the water is dirty. The water, I don't know if you can see, but the water is, yeah, that's very dirty. I also like to take a little bit of white vinegar and just like pour a little bit on top, just to, I don't know, kill anything. If you're worried about like salmonella splashing everywhere, after I'm done cooking, I always clean the sink. I always wash my hands with dish soap after I'm done washing the chicken before continuing to cook anything else. And yeah, it's better than eating dirty chicken because you have no idea since the factory where it's packaged up until now what is on it. So you always have to make sure to wash it. So now that we're done washing the chicken, we need to cube it so it's like bite-sized pieces. Always cut off like any like fat or whatever that is. And then from here on, we're just going to start cubing. So we're all done cubing up the chicken. My least favorite part is now done. Now is the fun part where we get to make the marinade. So we're going to start with, usually you use plain yogurt or like 2% plain yogurt, but I like using coconut milk. Yeah, I prefer coconut milk over like yogurt. So, I mean, they're both good, but yeah. Make sure before you open the can, you wash the lid and the bottom. My mom just told me to do that. You never know what happened in the warehouse if there was like a rat or something. You never know where they were stored, so make sure you're washing it, and then you're just gonna open it. Also, the coconut milk, like the fat usually stays at the top and then the liquid's at the bottom, so I definitely recommend shaking it. So I put around half the can in for the start of the marinade. And now we have raw, cubed, coconutty, milky chicken. Then we need about like 3 cloves of garlic minced and also ginger. I would say like around a tablespoon of minced ginger. Instead of mincing it, because sometimes you get a chunk of ginger and it's unpleasant, I would definitely recommend grating it. It's very labor intensive, so if you don't want to grate the ginger, you can just buy ginger paste at your Indian store, and you can also buy garlic paste at your Indian store if you don't want to go through that. So on top of the fresh ginger and garlic, I'm also just gonna add a spoon of each of these just because. Now we're gonna get started on seasoning. So if you are like, don't wanna buy all of these seasonings because you don't have them, then you can just buy like this simple box from the Indian store. It's like a spice blend for butter chicken. If you look at the ingredients, you can pretty much see like it broken down, like what's in it. But there's a lot of like random stuff in there, like color, citric acid, and other stuff that does not need to be inside. Same with the ginger garlic paste, there's additives and preservatives, so it's best if you just do stuff fresh. So we need 2 tablespoons of garam masala. You can find all of these if you want to do a lot more Indian cooking and you want to buy like separate spices. You're going to need garam masala, coriander, cumin, salt, red chili powder, and turmeric. So we're gonna add 2 tablespoons of garam masala. I do not have a lot. So these are all the other spices. I'm gonna add 1 tablespoon of turmeric. Next, I'm going to add 1 tablespoon of cumin. One tablespoon of coriander. For chili powder, it just depends on how much spice you can take. So yeah, it all just really depends what you want to put in. For me, I'm gonna put like probably half a tablespoon just to be safe. You can also like add, if you want to be on the safer side, just put like a little bit and then add more if you think it needs more later on when you're testing. Lastly, we want, if you're gonna make as much as I did, a tablespoon of salt. If you're going to like not make as much, and you're only gonna use like say 2 chicken breasts, for example, then you would probably want like a teaspoon of each of these spices instead of a tablespoon. But I made the whole pack of chicken breast. Another thing you can do is like make the whole pack, and if you're not gonna eat it all, you can take half of this marinade and you can put it in a Ziploc freezer bag and keep it in your freezer. That's one of the best ways to marinate because it tastes like so much better. But if you're in a rush and you only have like half an hour, we're gonna marinate this for half an hour. I have enough people, so I'm just gonna make the whole batch and then we're just gonna like eat it all. Maybe save a bit of it for leftovers. So this is what it looks like now. We're gonna mix it all up and then it should have a nice color. Okay, so we're done marinating it and it's in awesome color. The next step is to put the marinade in the fridge, and the minimum is half an hour, which I'm going to do. But if you really want it to become like super tender, I would definitely recommend leaving it overnight or putting it in the freezer for like up to a week. If you're going to put it overnight or for like a bunch of hours, I would definitely cover it, but I'm literally just putting it for half an hour. Okay, so I've let it marinate for the minimum time, which is half an hour. That's what it looks like. And now we just need to start pan frying the chicken. So I like to get a pan that's kind of like deep-ish. That way you can fry it and then you can also cook the sauce in it. What we're gonna do is like sear the chicken almost, and then like each chicken piece is gonna be seared so it's like browned. And then we're going to cook the sauce in that after we remove the chicken. Like sear the chicken, keep it aside, and then use that same pan with the chicken on it to cook the sauce. Start with a little bit of oil. I'm gonna use olive oil for the cooking. You need enough where the pan is completely coated because we are trying to sear the chicken. And then now that the oil is in the pan, we need to heat up the oil. I'm gonna put on like 7 but when I'm frying it, probably move it down to like 5 or 6. You want to make sure the oil like gets heated for at least like 2 minutes, because it needs to be like really hot so that as soon as you drop the chicken, it starts sizzling and searing. So just wait like 2 minutes to get the oil nice and hot. I usually use these earphones for filming because they do have a microphone on them, but I think that's pretty dangerous while I'm cooking, so I'm not going to do that. But I don't really have AirPods or other like a wireless microphone as yet. But we are going to also turn on the fan and the light, so it might be a little bit noisy. I think the oil has heated up by now, so I'm going to test by grabbing one of the marinated chicken pieces, and let's put it down and see if it sizzles. That's definitely ready, so we're going to put the rest of the chicken pieces. I'll do another one, and then I'll do the rest off camera. Okay, and we have all of the, well, not all of them, we have one round of the chicken starting to sear. When you notice that it's browning on one side, flip it over, brown both sides, and then keep them aside. Keep going until all the chicken has been seared. So this is what seared looks like. Not burnt, but enough that it's like kind of golden brown. So now you're going to turn it over and then let it sear on the other side. I'm going to do that with all these pieces. Once both sides are seared, I'm going to move them to this plate to just keep them aside. You might not feel like they've fully cooked in this time, and that's fine because they're also going to cook later on in the sauce. So by the end of everything, they will be fully cooked for sure. So that's what the first batch of seared chicken looked like. I got impatient, so I just dumped the rest in the pan, and eventually the marinade will like dry up, and it won't really be perfectly seared like that, but it'll be like partially cooked. And if I leave it for a little bit longer, it'll eventually start browning as well. But at this stage, I'll probably just remove them all, keep them there. When you find marinade at the end of the bowl, just add some water and keep it aside because we can add that to the sauce later. But it also has like raw chicken within there, so you want to make sure that you're cooking the sauce thoroughly. So that is all the seared chicken, and now just turn the stove off and leave your pan to the side, not on the element so it doesn't burn. But we're gonna keep this aside and cook in this pan. We just need to chop up a few things and get some stuff prepared to begin making the sauce. So for the sauce, the first thing we're gonna start with is an onion. I forgot to cut extra ginger and garlic at the beginning, so I'm just gonna use these. Okay, so now this is pretty much where the butter comes into the name butter chicken. What we actually use is called ghee, G-H-E-E. You can find that at the Indian store as well. That's pretty much, I think it's clarified butter or something, so I don't have that right now. I usually use that, but I'm gonna use butter. And then we're going to put the pan back on. And then now we're gonna grab the onions and fry them. All the seasoning that's on the pan from frying the chicken will be in the sauce now, so it's awesome that you reuse the pan. And we just want to get them like kind of golden brownish or just lightly cooked. If you're concerned that like the brown part from the chicken is not coming out, when we're making the sauce, it should reach up to here. It will cook out into the sauce, trust me. Okay, so the onions have pretty much been cooking for like a few minutes. I'm going to now add the ginger and garlic. So the ginger garlic's in, and we're just gonna saute it for another minute. So now we need to add a few more spices. So a new one that I'm gonna be adding is curry leaves. You can also find this at the Indian store, dried curry leaves. You don't really have to add this if you don't want to. Cumin and coriander again. Just a tablespoon of each, and also a tablespoon of Garam Masala, but I don't have much left, so instead I'm going to add an extra half spoon of each cumin and coriander, and then I'm going to add more chili powder to taste and more salt to taste, and then 1 tablespoon of sugar. Now I'm gonna turn the heat down because spices, they fry very fast and so they might get burnt. We need to open a tomato can, so make sure you like set it aside because that's gonna take a little bit of time and we don't want it to burn. So you just wanna use like any can of crushed tomatoes. You wanna use half the can. Mine's like about 800 milliliters and you need 400, so around half of this can roughly. I'm going to just add it to the masala. When you fry like onions and stuff and you add spices, that's called masala. So we're gonna add half this can to it. And then we're just gonna mix the crushed tomatoes with the masala. Okay, so now we're just going to let it kind of sizzle for 5 to 10 minutes. But I also just remembered from the marinade there was that extra sauce, so I added water to it. We need to cook this out because there was raw chicken in here. Okay, so this is the part where I just need you to trust the process. It will turn out. What some people do at this point is they take the tomato mixture with the masala and they put it in their blender to make it more smooth, but I kind of like the texture, so I'm just gonna leave it and let it cook for around 10 to 15 minutes. I realized that I actually made a lot of chicken because a lot of people are gonna eat, so I ended up putting the rest of the tomato can in here. It just depends on how much chicken you're going to be cooking. Also, I was thinking you usually add this after the tomato sauce is done cooking down, but the chicken will probably get more tender if I just cook it in the sauce the whole time, so I'll do that. Okay, you'll notice that it's looking a lot more orange now because the yellow chicken was added to the red sauce, but it'll really get that bright orange butter chicken color once we add the coconut milk, so I'm just gonna let it continue cooking down for another like 10 minutes, I'd say. And then I'm going to add some coconut milk. Another thing is I just realized I have to make rice to go with it. You can make some paratha to go with the butter chicken. It's like kind of like a flatbread, but that requires a lot of work and I just realized the butter chicken's almost done. So I'm going to make basmati rice, which is like a long grain Indian rice. I definitely recommend using that over any other rice because with Indian food, basmati rice is the best. It's like a must, like you have to use basmati rice. So yeah, you can have butter chicken with rice or paratha. So I'm gonna put 2 cups of that. Also make sure to wash your rice 3 times because you need to drain the starch. So basically just fill the rice with water and then you just like swirl it around and then drain out the water 3 times. Then after you've drained the 3rd round of washing, just add 2 cups of water. So 2 cups of water, 2 cups of rice, and if you're doing 1 cup of rice, probably just 1 cup of water. Then I'm going to add it to the Instant Pot, or you can probably use a rice cooker as well. You can also make rice on the stove, but this is so much faster. You can just cook it like this, but I like to add a little bit of salt, chicken stock, and sesame oil. And then we're just going to close the lid. Make sure it's not in venting. What is this one called? Sealing. Make sure it's in sealing. And then just press rice, and then you don't even need to press start. It'll just automatically start and it'll finish on its own. So I usually open the lid. I make sure that's the sound it makes when it starts. So it'll say like, it'll cook, it'll beep again, and then you need to wait for it to say L10. Once it says L10, the rice is ready, and you need to make sure you move it to venting before opening the lid. And you need to make sure that the metal has dropped. Okay, so now we're gonna take a look at the chicken. I'm glad I put the lid because it was splashing everywhere. You can see it got all over the counter. So this is great. The sauce has been thickening for the past 10 to 15 minutes, and you want it to be like not watery, but like thick like this. I'm also glad I added the chicken back because it is probably now very moist, and it's probably also thoroughly cooked through. So now I like to get a chunk of butter, plop that on top, and then just let it melt a little bit. Once you're noticing it's beginning to melt, I just like mix it through until it is completely melted. Okay, then we're going to take the rest of the coconut milk and just add that to the sauce. I also add a little bit of water back to the can and then pour that in. So now the sauce is going to lighten in color like a lot. It'll probably now look like the same butter chicken that you usually see. There's the butter. I didn't wait for it to melt fully, but it's almost done. And now this is the perfect butter chicken color that you're probably used to seeing. At this point, I find one of the larger pieces of chicken. And then what I do is just bring it to the cutting board that we were using previously. And you need to like slice it open just to see if it's like fully cooked or not. And it is fully cooked. Definitely by now it'll be fully cooked. You'll know it's undercooked if it's pink, and it's going to be white like this if it is fully cooked. So I grabbed some freshly chopped coriander freshly washed coriander, and now I'm going to chop it. Okay, and this is the final product. We're just garnishing it. The rice still has a few minutes, so I'm just going to load the rest of the dishes. Okay, so it's almost at L10, which means it's pretty much almost all like fully done. Like the steam is almost all done escaping. So what we're gonna do is take a spoon, get the rest of the steam out. And then that was not very much steam left over. And then as you can see, that metal piece dropped, which means that it is safe to open. And also what I do is I unplug the Instant Pot, because then it stays heated and then the rice starts burning at the bottom. So now we can open it. That is some perfect rice we have. And then I fluff it with this thing. The lighting is so much worse here when it's nighttime, but it's literally perfect, so. Okay, now we're gonna test it. It's perfect. It's perfect. The chicken is moist. The sauce is perfect. It's perfect. And I made some rose syrup milk to go with it. So that's pretty much it for today's video. I enjoyed this one because at the end of it, I got to eat food. So maybe I'll do more recipes in the future, but that is pretty much it for now. That's how you make butter chicken. It's one of my favorite foods, one of my favorite recipes, and just once you have it, you can't stop. I hope you enjoyed my recipe, and I hope someone out there decides to make it and tries it out. Thanks for tuning in.